How much thought have you given to your supplements and what you take? In today's episode, I am giving you 5 things you need to know before you take your next supplement. Stick around. This is one of those episodes that may not seem very exciting, and in truth, it's not. But because we have been talking so much about nutrition lately, and because supplements are often a part of the conversation, particularly as we get older, I wanted to come on here and share with you 5 things that you need to know before you take your supplements. I alluded to and mentioned actually one of these 5 things back in my episode on protein supplements. And if you missed that, you can go back and check it out. It was just a few weeks ago if you're listening real time. It's season 22, episode 2, called The Ultimate Guide to Protein Powders and Supplements. And that one was focused more on protein, but this one is going to be more of a general supplement guide. Whether you take calcium or a probiotic or omega-3s or anything else, really. Like, this applies to everything. This is an important episode for you to understand. And I will say, this conversation does come with a bit of privilege and accessibility. Supplements are not in everybody's budget, and at least one of the recommendations I'm making today does assume that you have the resources to do. So I do want to recognize that off the top of this conversation. However, most of the things in here have nothing to do with price. Wherever you are in your supplement taking, just know that I recognize that. I will also say that if you asked my husband, does Amy take a lot of supplements? He would laugh and be like, let me count the ways. However, that is significantly declining. I will share with you the supplements that I take on a regular basis later, but that's just for me. And so we'll talk more about that later. So I am not anti-supplements. However, I have been more discerning in the supplements that I choose. Let's go ahead and jump into the 5 things you need to know before you take your supplements. And we will wrap up with a couple other cautionary measures, and I will share the ones that I regularly take. Number 1, make sure your supplements are third-party tested. There are a multitude of reasons for this. Supplements are not regulated like drugs by the US FDA. I am a US-based show, so I'm talking about US. I don't know how things are in the country you're listening in if you listened outside of the United States, but here, they are not regulated by the FDA. There is no testing to see if what they say is on the label is actually on the label. There is no testing to see if what they say is in the product or in the ingredient list is actually in the ingredients. There is no testing to see if the label says it's 2 grams, if it actually is 2 grams. So the third-party testing has a lot of different purposes. It examines the final product for quality, purity, and potency. It verifies, like I said, that the supplement contains what it says it contains. It will check for harmful contaminants or undeclared ingredients. This is especially important if you have any kind of sensitivities or allergies. Goodness, how horrible would it be if you had an allergy to fish and a supplement threw some fish oil in there and you weren't expecting that? Third-party testing also verifies the consistency. So what is in one batch is the same as in the next, is the same as in the next. So it's going to be the same across all different batches. It will often have some sort of analysis that goes along with the supplement. And quite honestly, it just helps build transparency, consumer confidence, and trust in the product. For example, I prefer to buy my supplements that are third-party tested, and I really try not to buy ones that aren't for all of these reasons that I just mentioned. How do you know if it's third-party tested? There are 4 primary ways that I would encourage you to check out. Number 1 is NSF Sport. N is in Nancy, S is in sport, F as in foundation. I don't know what the N stands for, so it's not Nancy Sport Foundation, but nsfsport.com. You can go through and look at their products that they have tested. Another one is USP. It stands for United States Pharmacopoeia. I have had a harder time finding the products that they third-party test, but if you see a label that says USP on it, then it means that they have tested that. Another one is Informed Choice, also Informed Sport, same company, different labels on there. That's a great one that you can just go to their website and check on brands or products, and you can visually see a lot of the brands. The other one you can do is consumerlab.com. This is kind of like Consumer Reports, except it's for supplements. It's about $60 a year, so there is an added cost to that. However, they provide a lot of information beyond just the third-party testing. So if you do a lot of supplements or purchase a lot of supplements, this is a great one to go because they will test it, and then they also give like approved, not approved, recommended, and they provide a lot of guidance on there. If $60 is something that is accessible to you and you are wondering about a product that may not be certified through NSF or USP or Informed Choice, then check out Consumer Lab and see what they have to say about your favorite product. Number 2, let's talk about common misconceptions. I feel like one thing to know is the word natural does not always mean safe. Really, natural is just a word that has been way overused. I do think that informed consumers have started to be a bit more aware of this. This is probably not a surprise to you, but just be aware that just because the label has something green on it, which for some reason is like the official color of, or unofficial color, I don't know, of organic and natural and all of that kind of stuff. Like just because it looks natural doesn't mean it is. And even if it is natural, it doesn't mean it's safe. And it doesn't mean that it has been third-party tested. So something to be aware of. Now let's talk about organic. This is something that admittedly I had to do some research on before I got on here to share with you, because there's this like haze of organic. And a lot of people feel like, well, if it has organic on it, then it's okay. Let's talk about what organic means. Organic certification requires that farmers and handlers document their processes and get inspected every year. So organic is kind of from the soil and the actual product down. This is from the USDA. I'm going to read this to you. Organic on-site inspections account for every component of the operation, including but not limited to seed sources, soil conditions, crop health, weed and pest management, water systems, inputs, contamination, commingling risks and prevention, and record keeping. In order to make a claim that your product is organic, whether it is food or supplements or anything else, or to use that USDA organic seal, the final product must follow very strict production and handling and labeling standards and go through the organic certification process. Organic really focuses on how ingredients are grown and harvested and processed. It's kind of like that soil, anything connected to the soil up or down, it's focused on that. It verifies that the product has met those organic standards that are set by agencies like the USDA or the agencies of the country that you are in. And it typically involves a lot of inspections. So inspections of the farms, the processing facilities, the pesticides, the fertilizers, the GMOs, those are the things that they are looking for. It does not mean that the final product has been third-party tested. If your supplement has a USDA organic seal on it, that means that the items that were used to create your supplement are organic, but that does not mean that the product has been third-party tested. The organic certification is really valuable for ensuring the natural origins of ingredients. If it is important to you that your products don't have synthetic pesticides or fertilizers or GMOs, then absolutely buy your products organic. However, It doesn't guarantee the overall quality or accuracy of that supplement. So it can be organic, but it may still have problems with potency or mislabeling or something like that. So just be aware that your organic supplements may not have been third-party tested. Number 3, understand your label. This is particularly true with multivitamins. I don't know about you, but if I turn something over and I look at a multivitamin and it has a bajillion vitamins and minerals on it, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is good. Well, it may not be as great as like our brains want to think it is because it has a lot of vitamins and minerals. One thing is, it may not have a lot of each ingredient. It's important when you get a label to turn it around, and if nothing else in the US, you can see what percentage of the RDA that vitamin is. So that's one thing about these labels with multivitamins. The other thing too that is very interesting to me is sometimes they can have so many that they cancel each other out. For example, and this is important to our community of women over 40 who care about bone health, a typical multivitamin has calcium and iron. Calcium and iron bind to each other, so they become inactive. You're thinking that you're having your 200 milligrams of calcium or however much is in there, but actually it's binding to the iron and it's just going right on through and you're really not absorbing it. I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you this. And the chances are your body may not need all of those items in a multivitamin, which means you're just really having really expensive urine. For that reason, I don't take a multivitamin. However, I do provide multivitamins to my family. Why? Because something is better than nothing with them. They don't like to take a lot of vitamins, and it's a lot easier for me to give them the third-party tested multivitamin that I like for them. And they may have some expensive urine, but at least they're getting something. You know, my boys are at college, and the reality is it's very difficult to get the wide variety of plants that we talk about here on the Graced Health podcast in their collegiate living. I mean, I've talked to them, I've counseled them a lot about sometimes college is just about surviving. Like, let's just survive and drink water and get your sleep. And we'll talk more about nutrients when you have more control over what the foods that you are consuming. I've got one kid in a fraternity. I've got one kid living on campus. They just don't have as many options with plants, or at least plants that they like to eat. So let's just eat. Let's just eat and make sure that you're getting enough for your body and for your brain. And we'll talk about nutrients later if that's something that they want to learn and they want to talk more about. This is another lesson about understanding your label that I just realized, I am not kidding you, yesterday. That is, understand how much is actually in your label. I'm going to pick on myself for a minute. I have been taking an omega-3 supplement, a third-party omega-3 supplement that is omega-3 and D3 for a long time. I faithfully take these two relatively large fish oil supplements because I have been working on trying to get my HDL cholesterol up. HDL is the one that's the good cholesterol, and that will take the LDL out. And if you want to learn more about cholesterol, you can listen to the episode I had with Dr. Maria Colon-Gonzalez in season 18, episode 10. The title is Understanding Cholesterol and Holistic Health Management. You can go listen to that episode if you want to learn more. But I have been working on trying to get my HDL cholesterol up. Lately, I have been adding more seeds to my diet. Hemp seeds, chia seeds, sometimes flax seeds. These are a great source of fiber, and they are also a great source of protein. So between the two of them, I'm like, okay, these are good things to do. I will add them to my sheep yogurt because regular cow's milk yogurt bothers my stomach, but sheep's milk yogurt, which sounds disgusting, by the way, but it's really not. It's just fine. I will add it to that. I've been adding them to shakes, and I've just been trying to have a little bit more. Yesterday, for whatever reason, I took my omega-3 supplement. of these two very large pills with the fish oil, turned the bottle around and looked at the label, and that has 1.1 grams of omega-3s in the two capsules plus 1,000 units of D3. These are great things to have. The US RDA is 1.1 grams per day for women. This will get me to what the United States Food and Drug Administration recommends for me. However, then I started looking at the labels of my flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. And get this, 2 tablespoons of flax seeds has 2.1 grams of omega-3 versus the 1.1 in the fish oil. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds has 2.14 grams of omega-3s, and hemp seeds, I had to do a little bit of digging, but from what I can tell, 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds, which is about 10 grams of protein, will have about 3 grams of omega-3s. So guess who's not taking her fish oil anymore? This one, hand raised over here. I get plenty of it in my diet. Even if I'm not having fatty fish, which you may know is a great source of omega-3s, I'm getting it in these plant seeds. And what I like better about it, which I'll talk here more in a second, is it's coming from my food, not from a pill. And I'm telling you, those pills are pretty big. So this is great news for me. I just need to finish up my bottle and then I'm done. I'm not ordering those anymore. Number 4 with things that you need to know before you take a supplements is let's talk about some red flags. I'm going to run through these relatively quickly. If a label says that it has a proprietary blend, that's a red flag. Why? Because what that definition is it's a collection of ingredients that are formulated for a specific purpose, and it's kept secret from the consumer and also from their competitors. So this is something that they're like, oh, well, this is our super special ingredient, like the KFC chicken, right? Like that's a proprietary blend. Well, a proprietary blend in your supplements is not regulated. KFC is. So even though that seems super fancy, it is something to be aware of, and in my opinion is a red flag. Another thing to be aware of is any kind of exaggerated claims, superlatives, like this is the best, this is a miracle cure, something that just promises unrealistic results. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. As we discussed earlier, if it says natural, that doesn't really mean anything. And again, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily safe or effective. If it has missing information, like if there's a little box for an expiration date or a lot number and it's not filled in, red flag, like, why did you not fill this in? Why are you not telling me this? If the pricing seems too good to be true, it probably is. There is a reason. If it has been deeply discounted, there's a reason for this. Finally, number 5, let's talk about bioavailability. Bioavailability is basically how well our bodies can absorb or use a nutrient. Many nutrients work synergistically together, meaning they're best absorbed and they're best utilized when consumed together with other complementary nutrients. And this often happens in our whole foods. For example, going back to those omega-3s, salmon is high in omega-3 fatty acids. It's also high in vitamin D. And vitamin D and omega-3, when combined together, helps absorption, which is why my supplement had omega-3s and vitamin D, because it does help the absorption. But you know what's even better? Having the salmon that goes along with that. This is also why pairing those chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds with some yogurt works really well, because there's a lot of vitamin D in your yogurt. Another example is avocados. So avocados have great monounsaturated fats. Those are the ones that are considered the healthy fats, and they're utilized by the body. They also have vitamin K. So vitamin K is one of our fat soluble vitamins that we need, A, D, E, and K. And we need to have those 4, so I had to count them there for a second, those 4 supplements with fat in order to be absorbed. So again, going back up to that salmon, the omega-3s, those are fats. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, God has created these foods for optimal nutrient absorption when we eat those foods, when we eat the foods that God has given us. Now, of course, we can get food with enhancements. I'm thinking like cereal that has all of these vitamins that have been added to it. And you know what? That's not a bad thing, because cereal is easily accessible. It is at a lower price point, and it's a great way for populations who don't have the accessibility of a lot of whole foods to receive some nutrients. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing when nutrients are added to foods. And keep in mind, foods are regulated by the FDA. So the things that are in the Lucky Charms that they say, that's actually in there because that has been regulated and tested by the FDA. We're just talking about supplements here. Which leads to the second part of this bioavailability. Supplements are just that. I talked about this on the protein supplements episode. Supplements are an addition to what we are already eating. They can fill in the gaps, but they often lack the complex nutrient interactions, especially this bioavailability, that are found in whole foods, or that are found in, again, like the foods that God gave us in particular. They are to supplement your diet, not be in place of. I do feel like I can't let you go with giving you a couple cautionary measures. Number one, if you are going to be taking something new, it's best to consult with your doctor. You know, your doctor knows you better than I do, so trust your doctor and listen to their guidance. Also, make sure you know what ingredients are in there, especially if you have sensitivities or allergies or interactions. That's another thing. If you are on particular medications, you may have been advised to avoid some types of supplements. So make sure that you are heeding that. Again, one more reason why a multivitamin may not be the best choice for you, because it may include some ingredients that any potential medications you may be taking interact with. Obviously, follow recommended dosages, like don't OD on your supplements. Most supplements, if you have too much, you will just pee it out. So it just creates a really expensive flush. Vitamins D, E, A, and K are the ones that will stay in your system. So if you consume too much of that, that will stay in your system, and more is not necessarily better. Be wise with your dosage, and again, go with whatever the label says or what your physician is recommending. What supplements do I regularly take? Now, I admit I have a lazy Susan with plenty of supplements going around. I have been slowly reducing what that is. So do not ask my husband if I take a lot of supplements, because he thinks I take more than I actually take, which is a true statement. So one thing I regularly take is protein powder. Protein powder is a food supplement, not a regulated food. So that is something I will have at least every other day, probably more like 5 times a week, I guess is probably a good average of that. You can tune into that episode I referenced earlier for protein powders and supplements that I use and or recommend. Another one that I have been taking is vitamin D3. I get my blood work taken about twice a year because I do have hypertension, and so my doctor is just paying attention to some metrics, and my D levels have been pretty darn low. So yes, I am taking a supplement. The brand that I like and will purchase as much as I can is Garden of Life. They are third-party tested. I mean, how could they not be after this entire episode? And it's also available at my grocery store. Are there other ones out there? Absolutely. Is Garden of Life in general easiest for me to get? Yes. Now, other ones that I will have kind of on hand and use on demand, I'll probably mention 2 main ones here. One of them is magnesium. I had a great episode on magnesium with Natalie Gerardo that is almost 2 years old, but still great information. It's season 15, episode 2, called Muscle Cramps, Fatigue, Headaches, and Stress. and it is all about magnesium. It came out September 20th, 2022. I will link to all of these episodes, by the way, in the show notes, so you can go listen to that. There are a lot of different types of magnesium, and I will actually take a couple different ones for my particular needs. One of the magnesium supplements I take is magnesium malate. I take this one in particular because my muscles will get twitchy whenever I have used them a lot or whenever I have sweat a lot. Living in Houston, Texas means I sweat a lot and I am outside often. I am also moving a lot. I have found that taking magnesium malate helps prevent my muscle twitching, which happens when I am drifting off to sleep. And then it's always my quads that twitch, wakes me up. And then it's like another 20 minutes before I can fall back asleep. And I'll just kind of go in this cycle. So that is one thing that I will take probably in the evening before I go to bed, not like right before I go to bed, but I'll take it maybe after dinner or something like that. So again, this is for my specific needs. You may have other needs of why you need magnesium, and you may need a different type of magnesium. The other magnesium I have found is a topical spray by Now Solutions. And this I've gotten on Amazon. It's actually relatively inexpensive. It's $9 to $10. It kind of depends on the day. And this is magnesium chloride. I will spray it on my legs for that same twitchiness. I have also noticed when I spray that on my legs, I will sometimes get a deeper, heavier sleep. So a little bonus with that. Those are the two magnesiums that I will turn to for my specific ailments. If you have headaches, anxiety, some other types of issues, then a different type of magnesium may be appropriate for you. And I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode with Natalie to learn more. The final supplement that I will keep on hand, and this is the one that is not third-party tested. It is organic, but I can't find one that's third-party tested. And this is a super weird one. I kind of hesitate mentioning it because I had to connect a lot of dots with this. But what I was noticing is there were times that I was waking up and my arms would be falling asleep in the middle of the night. They would fall asleep and they were hurting. And so I started kind of noticing some patterns and behaviors and realized that I thought it was vitamin B6 related. Vitamin B6 has a lot of different uses. It can help carry oxygen in your red blood cells, and it also is helpful for nerve health. So, and again, these are just dots that I connected because this is what I do. I was like, oh, this may be a nerve issue. And so I have started taking vitamin B6 when I am waking up with my arms falling asleep a lot because it hurts. Like it's not just dead, like it hurts too. And the other thing that I have found in my research is the more protein you eat, the more vitamin B6 you need. Well, as you know from my 4-part series on protein, I've been increasing my protein some lately. That is something I will take really on an as needed basis. Just like I don't do the magnesium all the time. I just do that when my muscles start to get really twitchy. I will take the B6 when I notice that my hands and my arms have fallen asleep. Again, though, those are just mine. The other supplement I take every now and then is something called Vital Aminos, and it's by Live Momentos, which is also where I get that magnesium malate. Live Momentos is third-party tested. It is endorsed by a lot of people I learn from and respect. Vital Aminos has all of our essential amino acids, as well as some BCAAs, those branched chain amino acids. It has just a little bit of protein. This is one of those products that I will take depending on the workout that I have had. So if I've had a really heavy strength day, if I've had something where I've used my muscles a lot, I may take that just as a supplement. Is it a total game changer? The honest answer is I don't really know. And what would happen if I stopped taking it? I don't really know. But I do like that it gets me those essential amino acids. I do like that it gives me the branched chain amino acids. And if you are like, wait a minute, what are all of these things? Go back and listen to that 4-part mini series, particularly episode 1 and episode 3 earlier in this season, season 22, on protein. So I get into all of that more there. That is what I have to say about supplements. I hope this was helpful for you. What I would encourage you to do with this information is use your own discernment and figure out what works right for you. You do not need to apply all of these to all of your supplements. I am not saying go out and throw away anything that isn't third-party tested. I do recommend, if it's accessible to you, to purchase third-party from this point forward. It can be more expensive. And that's why I say is if this is accessible to you. However, the peace of mind knowing that what you think you are actually having, in my opinion, is worth it if you can afford it. I know that's not the case for everyone. And so I will not ever come in here and say, you must do this. But if this is a choice that you can make, I encourage you to do that. Of course, keep in mind the other things that you need to know. So a quick recap. Number 1, try to get your supplements third-party tested. Number 2, be aware of the misconceptions, particularly natural and organic does not necessarily mean that it is third-party tested or that it's necessarily safe. Number 3, understand your label and your needs. Number 4, look for those red flags. Number 5, what is the bioavailability? And of course, this is all covered in supplements are here to supplement your diet, not be your primary way of having nutrients. Try to get it from your foods and your whole foods as much as you can. Hey, come back next week. We are having a wonderful conversation with Kristen Milan, one of the founders of Femgevity, which is a women's health and menopause focused site. I know you are going to love that conversation. I hope to see you back. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a great day.